Caro, welcome everyone to our Orisha Devotional webinar. It is our intent to inspire you with the wisdom of Ifa, Obatala, and Olokun. Please, as always, invite your friends and your family to be members of our Orisha Spiritual Assembly. We always intend to inspire you with the wisdom of all of the Orisha. As we get started, as we typically do, we will start today's devotion with an invocation to Oshala. Ile bobo, ile orishao, ile bobo, ile orishao, orishanla, lomule, waio, ile bobo, ile orishao, ile bobo, ile orishao, ile bobo, ile orishao, orishanla, lomule, waio, ile bobo, ile orishao. Today, I would like to speak to you all about Kadara. And Kadara, considering that most terms have been translated into English from Yoruba under a Western perspective, but it's the idea of destiny. And this idea is twofold. Either that things can be so bad, some may think things may never change, or some things can be persistently and consistently good, and thinking that those things will never change. The idea that there is a definite predestination on life, irregardless of the circumstances, is what we want to speak on today. In social psychology, there was a theory that was called a bystander theory or bystander effect. This psychological theory states that individuals are less likely to offer help to a victim in the presence of other people. This theory was observed by researching dangerous or violent or non-violent, non-dangerous emergencies. And there's a degree of responsibility, and it determines if someone is likely to help another person or not. The different degrees is if someone feels that the person who needs help is deserving or not, if the bystander is competent or not. But there's also something that theorists and social psychologists would state that there is issues with the diffusion of responsibility. So considering that there are several other observers that had witnessed an act or witnessed an emergency, some individuals do not feel pressured to take on the responsibilities, for it's thought that it's shared with those who are present. Now, something that I had experienced, which I'm sure my brothers and sisters here had experienced as well, is that altruistic leadership at times is very uncomfortable. And it will take a sense of bravery to step out, to be the first one to take initiative on some type of drive. Bravery, what was defined to me by one of my elders, is when you encounter a situation and you know that a just action should be taken, but if you're afraid to act and you do it anyway, this is the definition of bravery that was told to me. And if we look at the place of African people, it would not be so hard to, or rather too difficult to conceive that there must be a global plan that would be a direct inhibitor to the natural living of autonomous, free from colonization, manipulation, or exploitation. That there are things that we had contributed to civilization, and the civilization had benefited from for years, but we seek, or we no longer, or rather, we still don't seek the benefits of the contributions that we have made. So for an example, there's countless inventions that have been made by African in the diaspora, women and men. Several things that one would not believe that they were made by the African people. For an example, there's complex architectures in America that Africans have built, which majority of the small ones have been intentionally destroyed. And there are a few remainder of those that exist today. And in education, the education system is intentionally removed, and the contribution of Africans in America has been systematically removed. And there's these narratives that are being created that are far from the truth. And it influences the way that we see ourselves. It influences the way that other people treat and regard Black African life. So for an example, it was not previously known to me that several key structures in America were actually built by Africans. For an example, the Statue of Freedom on top of the Capitol as a whole, the White House, the Smithsonian in DC, Wall Street, Trinity Church, New York, Harvard Law School, Georgetown University, Monticello, University of North Carolina, Montpelier, Mount Vernon, to name a few. Actually, the Jesuit order in 1838 owned over, they say 400, but I can expect that it's more, African people. And these African people actually constructed these very complex cathedrals and churches. And actually, the first Catholic institution was Georgetown. Again, that was built by African people. So, and many are thinking the same thing today. If we have these complex structures built out of marble or sandstone, these complex arch vaults, these complex interior design, the wood chip. I'm not sure if y'all have visited any older, not only monuments, museums, old houses that are in the historic side of any colonial area in North America, on the northeast side or the north and the southeast side, that there's such intricate design on these houses. And so people think there must be a reason why these don't continue today. Perhaps the people who built them are no longer being forced to do this. Nonetheless, what is more frustrating by viewing these oases as I view older spots in history is that the individuals, the bloodline and the lineage that created these structures, that created these inventions, their lineage do not bask, or they do not benefit from the contribution of their elders from the previous generations. Now, there's been several lineages that have been received reparations. The Japanese received their reparations, about 120,000 after World War II. There were 26,000 claims that was awarded to them, which is over $37 million. Some people, for an example, in Iran has tax exemption cards as a form of reparation, but there's been nothing given to African people. There's no, not even proper mention of the contributions that we had made. It's almost just forgotten from history. So at times, my intentions can be misunderstood when we're confronting foreign philosophical inferences or literature, or foreign religious literature. And it's not to be militant, but it's to show one that the belief structure and the theories that are projected onto us Black people via transatlantic slave trade, trans-Saharan slave trade, and colonization was not done altruistically, that this was given as a form of psychological warfare to break the spirits of the people. So many will believe that there will be a savior that would descend from somewhere onto our community, and that will remove us from the ills of society and transport us elsewhere to experience eternal bliss. That there is a being that, or rather being accepting or non-objective, by being meek, that we will inherit all the good things on the earth. And that there is a plan that no matter what happens here, the works of humans are insignificant because it's this overruling plan that quote unquote some divine being has and that will override anything that happens here. One of my favorite essays from the Ifa corpus is from Otrudupon Meiji. And Otrudupon Meiji in this essay takes on the praise name of Ologbon Meiji, which means two wise ones and two elders. So I'm sure all the Ifa students, I'm sure you all have heard this essay before, but the name of the diviners are quite key to understanding this essay. And I believe it goes Olobokan, Takako Umi Setiasho, Amanakon, Elepe, Adifa fun Wari Abu fun Wa Ori Weleo, Ori Abiye, Inri Back Boye Koyo Sheshe. I think I may have missed on the second name of the diviner, but basically it says that the no wise person will put water on a knot and try to retain that water onto that knot. In the story gives a little bit of clarity to why that's so. So here it's a essay about the Ori Anu and Iwa. So when you come from Orun to Aye, you have your Ori Anu, it's obtained before you come in the material world. Either it's there's some essays to where it says that individuals will go and select their Ori Anu, not knowing what were the contents. Some say it was given. Nonetheless, that the Ori Anu is obtained before you enter Earth. And Ajala is the potter that is on the wheel that is molding the Ori Anu. So this concept is consistent all throughout Africa. So in Kemet, again, we have Kanum. Kanum sits on the potter's wheel that's forming the Ka and the Kayet before someone is born. And Akan, the word tree, in tree, the word Kanumfo means the potter, the one who's on the potter wheel. So all of these African traditions are stating the same thing, that there is an entity that's on a potter's wheel that's molding the Ori Anu, or the indwelling intelligence, the personal divinity of the person before they were born. So this essay is telling you that there's no icon for your Iwa. The way that you exist, the way that you carry on your character is that it's completely up to you. You can't propitiate it. There's no icon, there's no quick fix for it. But your Ori Anu is something that you need, and it is your main icon for success. It's your personal deity, and it's something that guides you throughout your life. Your Iwa is something that someone is your character that you exhibit. So again, from Orun to Aye, this is something that you bring here, and you could attempt to change your destiny, quote unquote destiny, by listening to the mandates of the Ori Anu, and this again should reflect into your character. So again, this story is speaking about the two, the Iwa, your character, and then your Ori Anu. And there are several debates that individuals would get upon in regards to the Ori Anu or the Ori, and the idea of is it something central to human personality, to luck, prosperity, or even the idea of free choice? Do we pick our destiny, or is it given to us? And there are several journals, and you could Google it. And it's this back and forth about destiny, free will, predestination. Are we just robots to work out an assimilation that was given to us before we got here? But a lot of those translations are looking at African philosophy through Eurocentric eyes, and we're missing the key wisdom that our African ancestors are giving us. In another essay, it spoke about Salako. And Salako, it means something like having white and tying it into a knot. So this indicates that there was someone who was preordained before they were born to be a worshiper of a white icon Orisha, such as Orisha Ako, Oshala, Yamu, Orisha Oko, Obalufon, etc. So this individual was supposed to worship Obatala. And a common elbow for Obatala is a white cloth. And we'll go over this next week to what I guess in depthly the white cloth means. And this sacrifice of a white cloth, it could be giving the icon a piece of white fabric. That is a common elbow that you can give to Obatala, but it's also speaking about sacrificing one's clothes. So when you're reading essays and they say that they're sacrificing cloths, especially dealing with white, they're telling you that this person should only be wearing white. So for some reason or another, Salako decided that one did not want to wear white. It was preordained that he would have all the blessings of Obatala if he adhered to the strict order and that he kept it, that he did not throw away the blessings of Obatala by not doing what he had asked. So it says that on Obatala's day, he comes around and he checks to make sure all of his devotees are upholding their taboos. So this is a reason why, worshipers of Obatala, some have the mandate to wear white for the rest of their lives, every day. Some have it, just on that day. So Obatala came through on his day and he went and he checked on Salako. And so he saw Salako and he saw that he was wearing black today. He's like, okay, black again. All right, we'll let it slide. The next Obatala day, he came down and he saw he was wearing another color. It was like, oh, now you're wearing purple. Okay. And so he kept coming around and Salako did not adhere to what Obatala said. So all of these blessings that Salako had, that he was going to lose them all and then they were going to be given to someone else. And so that's actually mentioned in that essay when you read the lines, the mandatory lines that are needed for divination. And it says something like, Salako, if you're going to throw away your blessings, give your blessings to me. If you're going to throw away everything that Obatala gave you, you need to, just go ahead and give them to me. So it wasn't until this person started wearing white, perpetrating white icons, wearing white things, that things would not be going well for this person. And white, again, is a lot deeper than what we're told, or a lot deeper to what we understand. We do know that there are 7 Aruns, 7 different layers of the spirit world. We do know that there are a layer of the Arun to where Obatala possesses completely. This is absolutely consistent with the Sheshem Duat, the book of the spirit world, and Kemet, to where Ra's going through the different divisions of the spirit world, to where it ends in the last section, or the last quarter, that Ra's reborn through Asar, and Asar's whole body makes up the spirit world. So it's another African tradition that's stating that this white place, this white realm, this white cloth, when people have near-death experiences, they see people dressed in white, they feel this peace or this serenity, they see the white staircase, the white light going down the white tunnel. So all of these actually mean something. And we'll go over this in a recess eschatology in year 4 for the degreed students. But it's a lot deeper than what people think it means. So throwing away this white, you'll throw away a lot of your blessings. And it makes you kind of question what reality is. So if there's colors that we cannot see, if there's sounds we cannot hear, if there's vibrations we cannot feel, then does this mean that reality is solely contingent upon what the body's nervous system can register? Is there something about white that is changing the future before it actually occurs? And if so, this makes you question, is everything that we see is set in stone? There's a lot of plans or a lot of ideas that people may think or want to do. And the immediate thing that one would think is, oh, I can't do this because of this, or we can't do this business because we don't have a startup, or you can't do this because of this. You came from the hood, you can't do this. You can't do that because, you don't have this. There's always, there's commonly or frequently a negative statement to stop someone for doing something as if this reality is already defined for you. And actually, the reason why I did this devotion, as me and my son were making that trip to this concert in New York, he wanted something, and that wanted this type of merchandise. And he was telling, Dad, it sells out real quick, and people go out there and they camp out all night and get it. And we won't get it. And he's, trying to rush me, down there. But of course, we got early. So I told him, I'm like, hey, nothing. I was like, hey, let's consider this. What if I told you nothing past the next 15 or 20 minutes actually have been created yet, right? What if you had a chance to change that? So I had him, hey, visualize what you wanted, see it in your mind's eye. How does it feel in your hand? Have a sense of joy, have belief that what you just did is going to be set in stone, and then release it. Project it through your atmosphere, release it. And then when we got there, exactly what he wanted is what he had achieved. And that's a lot of things in life. One of my favorite sub-studies is personal magnetism. And it shows us that we have a very strong grasp on reality, that nothing is set in stone to be negative. And the same thing, nothing is set in stone to be positive if we don't move our 2 feet. So the Orienu is actually a complex. Again, I think a lot of things are a lot deeper than what we may see on the surface. African religion is a lot deeper than what one think. And, it's a lot deeper than what one may think. So when we have the Kadara, the Ayamo, the Kunlegba, Kunleyan, these are the 4 different quadrants within the Orienu complex. It's the same all throughout Africa. Kemet, you have the Ka, Kayet, the She, the Shayet. Akan, you have the She, the Shebia, the Umkrabia, and Vodun, She Fawa Saju, or the She Fawu Saju, or the She Kapoli rather, or the She Lido, which is the Orienu. So all throughout Africa, we're having the same occurrence. So sometimes I believe if we are quick to remove, Western influences from our religion, and we say, hey, that's not African, that's Western, or this is a Western thing, we may be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So it's always best to look at all of our collective cultures and see the commonality between our brothers and sisters, because it's the same. So when we're speaking about the Ayamo and the Kadara, is that most times people would translate that into destiny. And to clarify that your Orienu holds your Ayamo and your Kadara, and it's not necessarily your destiny. Again, I don't say these terms just to be militant, but it's something that's inferred that may lead people to have unfulfilling lives. Is that when we're speaking about a Kadara, is that before we were born, is that you were given like a codified, like a set of instructions or things to do onto earth. Hence, this is why people say that the Orienu deals with material success. And the material success is solely contingent upon what you were supposed to be doing. It's not one act. It's not one thing, but it's like a vibration or a set of things that one should be attempting to emulate, right? So this is a set of functions and spiritual powers that you have to complete when you're born. But when we say destiny, destiny means no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter how we act, no matter if we don't do the elbow or not, no matter if we don't, put the phone down and stop watching the, the YouTube reels, or stop watching, too much media. And if we don't move our 2 feet, it does not mean that we will always achieve what our Orienu wanted us to achieve if we don't make the actions to make that an actuality. This is why I don't believe in destiny. I believe in Kadar fully. I believe that we may have some predetermined set of instructions, rankings, or something we were supposed to achieve. But this is also reverberated in the Ologbong Meiji about the Ori and Nu and the Iwa. If you don't move your 2 feet, we won't achieve what your deity told you to achieve. So in the same with Kadara, it is defined as the message, the mandate, the commission. Sometimes in some dictionaries, they would just repeat and say that the Kadara means the Ayamo, but it doesn't. And we look at a Twi dictionary, look at a Yoruba dictionary, or the Matutu dictionary, it would all say the same thing. So they're illustrating an occurrence to where something was spoken to the Orienu before you got here. And it's something that we were supposed to do. And it's something that makes us unique. You have your own unique set of instructions. You have your own unique tutelary deity that follows you. A lot of folks don't believe that. But I think that, again, by trying to separate ourselves so vigilantly from Western civilization or Western religions, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism and whatnot, is that we may be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Is that, in several cultures, they believe that not only there are deities that possess your family line, but there is a tutelary deity that possesses a person's life, and your life is to reflect that same energy that had claimed your life. But we go over this extensively in Orisha spirituality. So there's a Osha Pipe that says Obatala will take from, it's mistranslated. So it says that Obatala will take from the one that has and give it to the one that does not have. And at times this gets mistranslated to Obatala takes from the greedy and gives to the needy. I think that's a mistranslation. Again, it's inferring something that may be a little off from the original story. But this occurrence is retold in the Ifa corpus. And so this is the story about Obatala and his two sons. So one day, Obatala suffered from Bog, which again, to me, Bog means everything sickness, or like a holistic sickness, such as like, a major depressive episode, to where people may not want to get out of the bed. You don't eat, you don't you don't eat, you don't move, you don't do much. You just sit, want to rest and stay in the bed. So for some reason, Obatala had this Bog Arun, and he was just stuck to the bed. And this condition Obatala sought to have a divination about, and he had two sons that were nearby him. Obatala had several children, but is only explicitly speaking about these two. So it was one that Obatala favored, Nini, and whatever Nini wanted, Obatala would give in excess. But he was really hard on Ani. Everything that Ani wanted, he had to assist on his own. Obatala did not assist him in any way. He didn't wish him well luck on his endeavors. Is that everything that he had to do, it was he done it by himself without any material help from Obatala. One day, when this Bobo Garun was getting excessive, Obatala divined and called for a diviner to come to him. And they told him that he would need these type of pheasant eggs, a lot of them, to complete his ebo. And so as they were going around and looking to see who had these type of pheasant eggs, that there wasn't enough that would satisfy the elbow that was prescribed for him. So he called his son, the one that he endowed everything with, Nini. And he said, I need you to go into the bush and find some of these eggs for me. This journey is going to take about 2 to 3 days, and we'll need about 60 pheasant eggs or so I can be well. And Nini just sat there and thought about it, and he kind of laughed to himself. And he was like, Baba, do I look like the person that's going in and out of the bushes and getting eggs for you? Like, that's not my thing. Let me call one of the peasant staff and let me see if they can go do something for you. And so, he was really conceited and continued to think, why would I be prancing around in the bush looking for pheasants? I'm the son of Obatala. This is like beneath me, so to speak. But Annie got up courageously and said, Baba, I'll do it. I'll go and grab the eggs. So he got this makeshift wicker basket, and he made it with some type of leaves, and it was strong enough to support these eggs. So he helped them fulfill his abo. Everything that was that Nini had was taken and given to Annie. So, I had conversations with some of my colleagues in the past, and they were saying like, oh, well, hey, Batala is creating the same error, the same issue, because he spoiled one child and he spoiled the next. We can break these layers down, break them down to several layers depending how it's applicable. But one thing that stuck out to me, And when I was praying one day, I had a dream, and you would know by the way the dream goes, you know who's speaking to you, either your main Orisha, your Egungun, or your Egbe, depending on how things are said, who you see. But one song that kept playing in my ear was the Johnny Gill song "Fair Weather Friends." I'm like, why is this song keep playing in my ear? And I went ahead and played it when I was driving to work, and it was a reminder. And sometimes you get little synchronistic occurrences. You may walk in on a conversation or a song, and even though you can think of that song as maybe to an intimate relationship or with a friend, I took it a little bit further. And when I was listening, that song almost spoke volumes to this essay. It's two-sided, making sure don't be a fair weather friend. Don't be the person that's only appreciating your deity when they're doing something for you, or when you're without. Like, how frequent will we be praising the Orisha when you're going through something completely tough? But when the waters had calm, are we still giving our deity the same elbow, the same attention, even when things are good? In reverse, that I believe Obatala was saying, that he's not a fair weather friend. Like, just because things are difficult and things are hard, your deity will not leave you. And I had experienced more than enough of hardships and difficulty to remove any types of issues with faith or belief. And I feel like that's the main thing that a lot of clients I see suffer with when they move from African tradition, from a Western tradition to an African tradition, is really dealing with faith in belief. So one a brief last essay before we end for today. Not only speaking of the idea that one could lose everything and be taken to someone else, or maybe people can rebound and start to live again, is that there was an essay that was mentioned in the book Obatala, the Greatest Divinity by Ola Yinki Babatunde. And what he was stating was that I don't remember the Odu, but it was speaking about this conversation or this relationship between Obatala and Orumila. And we know that Baba can mend broken destinies, or mend people's broken world ritually and rectify the issues. But what the author was translating from this essay, and he stated that there's no bad quote unquote destiny that cannot be rectified by good character. So even if the odds are stacked against us, things cannot be so bad that a good character cannot rectify. So there's an essay with Olokun and Ogbe. Of course, we know Olokun is the richest of all the Orisha. Her second is Aj, and the third is Obatala. But Olokun wanted to do a reading, wanted to get a divination, but she was a little uneasy about it, because they know once Olokun comes here, is that they're going to ask her to pay all of these different types of ebos that are extremely expensive, because they know that she can pay it, and she knows she want to be treated fairly. So she went to Ejibo Mukun market, and it's this huge outdoor market, as we all know. And she was going there seeking divination, but rather than going as herself, she decided to disguise herself and look as a crazy person, so to speak. So she had these rags on. Her child was being carried upside down, with the hands just sticking out there, wrapped it, just looking a mess. And when she got there, they were asking, Olokun, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And she was saying that I'm seeking, a divination. And then they were saying, okay, well, it's I don't know if you can do it. It's 200 goats, it's 200 rams, 200 of this and 200 of that. And then, she said, seriously, like, are you sure that all of this is needed? And then that was the Odu, that was the elbow that was needed. So when she would walk past and she saw Ejiobe, and she wanted to see what was going on, and they wanted to see if this person will be able to do the elbow that was recommended for her. And when she noticed Ejiogbe that was coming there, is that he knew that, I guess, his intentions weren't altruistic, and that he was only seeking the money of Olokun. Long story short, the moral of this story is that not to turn anybody away because of how they may appear, and that life in a sense can have an illusion. So she was able to complete the elbow. Of course, she paid the original diviner all the money that they were needed, that they asked for, and more. But Ogbe was giving a valuable lesson to not treat people in a negative way just because of the way that they look. So in short, here is that there's no such thing as a quote unquote destiny. There is no event that is preordained to happen without any action of the individual. When you think about cosmology, of course, there was the original intent to where things were created, how there was a will to start to form the land out of the water, the water cycle, plants, vegetables, animals. That original act, there was plans here, but things like that or that order was before the arrival of humans. So nature seems like they naturally replicate this type of order. But for us, it appears that is as if it's a type of choice. So in short, there is not a quote unquote divine plan or God's plan that is going to overrule the injustices if we do not move on it. All the injustices that we see, there's no man or woman that's going to drop out of the sky and do these problems for us unless we do something about it ourselves. Now, we can't allow people or different agencies that assume positions of authority that have no pure intention to act justly to act on our behalf, either if it's domestic, international, environmental, oceanic, atmospheric, educational, medicinal, etc., is that we will need to cultivate a special type of courage to confront these institutions. And when I mean confronting, I don't mean necessarily, protesting or doing anything violent, but it's for the person to be completely submissive to the will of your Ori and Nu, that thing that puts you in order with reality. And you have a particular shade or a vibration of things to uphold. And I'll briefly state this before we close. As I mentioned earlier, there's no one set thing that someone should do. For an example, when we read about Oshun, Oshun represents harmony and balance. And if you read her essays, go back and take a look at what's being demonstrated here. So for an example, we know that sometimes we see Ashun, a lot of Olo Ashuns as dancers, hair braiders, singers, politicians, diviners, artists, because Oshun is bringing together different things and bringing harmony amongst it. So for an example, how can you have different strokes of paint and put those strokes together to create a beautiful portrait? Like that's Oshun. How do you bring together different steps and choreography to make a beautiful dance? How do you bring together different textures of hair to beautify someone's head? How do you bring together a man and a woman and create balance between them and create balance and create a new life? So she is that aesthetic attraction, but it definitely gets lost or just ruined, for lack of better words, if we just see Oshun as just the goddess of just love and sex. She is that sensual attraction, that magnetic attraction, but that magnetic attraction brings things together so that there's balance, harmony, and whole. So when we're speaking about a purpose or doing something that was preordained for you to do as a Olo Oshun, you could be in the pediatrics, you could be a diviner, you could be someone that's in politics, you could be an art teacher, you could be a dancer, so forth and so on. So you get what I mean by matching that vibration of a deity that spoke over your life is how we're contributing to order and how we can start to confront some of this control or some of this manipulation that happens here for us African people. So there is order, but it's up to the people to uphold, and it's by something that we do. We have a function, we have an assignment that it should be naturally gravitated towards, that relates to the function of our tutelary deity or our ancestral clan. There will not be a return of the deity to drop down in the sky and to save us. And then just know that if there is something that we know that is wrong, if there's an action that we know that we need to preserve and we do not make that action, brothers and sisters will be morally responsible for the outcome of that decision. Thank you so much for joining us on Devotion this morning. I see we have one question here from Ia Chinyere. 1 second, I'm going to unmute you. Caro, go ahead, Ia.
That must have been an accident. My little one must have pushed something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. All right. Thank you so much for joining us for devotion today. Next week will be my last devotion for you all, and Babokola will be returning first week in August. Irio Odabo.